I started coming to Eva's because I was hungry. My mother got incarcerated when I was young. My grandmother became my legal guardian. I didn't really have a lot of friends. Got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I started experimenting with pain medication. Quickly realized it was cheaper to sell and to buy heroin in Patterson. So I started shooting heroin. And within 6 months, the apartment was gone. I ended up selling the car. I was homeless from 2008 till 2013, living underneath a bridge, actually on Grand Street. I did a lot of panhandling, like people avoiding you just because they know what you're gonna ask them, right? Like everybody not wanting to be around you. It's just being so alone. You're just so alone. So my first interaction with Eva's was at the kitchen. I was informed very early on that there was a place that I could get at least lunch each and every day. My interaction was very, very minimal. I think there was a lot of shame on my part. There was Mark, who actually worked at Eva's shelter. I didn't know that then, but I would see him. He just treated me like a person. I decided to try to get into Eva's men's shelter. I was a totally different guy, like sunken in cheekbones, and I smelled really bad. He didn't recognize me, so when I tell him the whole story, he was like, "Are you that guy that was on Green and Main? Go get your stuff and come back and just be here before 4."
Thank goodness, we had a bed available. I told him, go get your stuff and come on in. I was raised in a single household by my mother in the streets of Newark. As I got older, I started drinking. Then I tried this one drug with a cousin of mine, cocaine. Got in trouble, I got locked up. When I got out, I made a decision that out of everything that has been transpiring in my life, I can't blame that on anybody but myself. But what I need to do is have the courage to get my stuff together. I was in the transitionals and graduated this program in June of 1997. I'll never forget it because I finally finished something in my life. When I first came to Eva's, I started at the men's shelter, and now I'm the house manager at the Eva's overnight shelter for men. People like Josh, people like myself, needed a place to go, but we needed a safe place to stay.
I just needed a safe place to stay. I got incarcerated for many years. When I got out, I had 5 years mandatory parole and I needed an address and I didn't have one. So that's how I ended up at Eva's shelter. Never thought, this girl from Bergen County, upper middle class background, educated, would be in a homeless shelter. I've been a type 1 diabetic since I'm 17 years old. I'm insulin dependent. Because of the clinic, I was able to get my insulin and live, basically, at no cost. They allowed me to continue my education. I completed my schooling to get my certified alcohol and drug counselor license. So they recruited me into the outpatient because they really needed counselors. I had nothing. I literally had nothing except the clothes on my back, and it wasn't even a lot of clothes when I walked in that shelter January 23rd, 2012. And to be standing here today, employed, self-sufficient, they gave me a chance. People need comprehensive care. Most of them have experienced some form of trauma, which then either led to an addiction, a mental health disorder, or a combination of both. Some of them are resistant because they've never felt that type of care and compassion in their own blood families. So to come to a place where they feel that they found a family when they never knew what that really meant.
Kathy, I knew her as Miss Kathy. She was the assistant house manager when I went through the Mommy and Me program. I probably started drinking when I was like 12 years old. My mom had cancer when I was growing up, and she died when I was 15. My dad had a stroke when I was 12, so he was disabled from that. My first rehab I went to was in 11th grade. I have 2 kids. I had my son when I was 26. I didn't use while I was pregnant with him, but maybe when he was 10 months old, I started using again. So relapsed, did heroin for 8 months, and then I didn't want to lose my son, so I was like, I have to stop. I have to stop. So I came here to the Mommy and Me program. Treatment was hard because you're not just worrying about yourself, you're worrying about another human being at the same time. I didn't know how to be a mom. I was a drug addict. I would keep him up till 4 o'clock in the morning and run around doing stuff with me. So this gave me the ability to not only get myself on a schedule, but to get my son on a schedule, to get him normal life too. And I've always wanted to be a chef. And so that's another reason why I wanted to come to Eva's, was because they had a culinary school here.
Culinary school. I grew up with my mom's and stepdad. I never knew who my real father was because my mom didn't ever tell me till later on in life that my father raped her. I was a rape baby. And so during that time, my grandmother didn't believe in abortion, so she had me and she took care of me. I had 2 scholarships to be a pro basketball player. I started smoking weed. I dropped out of school. I started sniffing coke, and coke led to freebasing, that's crack. I caught a drug charge, and I went to jail, and they preferred me for a program. Eva's was my first program. I went to the halfway house, I graduated it, and everything. And I think I stayed clean for about over a year. I went back to my mom's and I used. When I got back this time, my last relapse, I knew I wanted to stop. I was in the shelter. And when I moved over there, the lady, Miss Barbara, I love her to death, she said, "You're going to the culinary art school." I was like, "What? I signed you up already." I was like, "What?" Later on, they came to the shelter and told me, "Wanda, we got a studio apartment for you." They showed me the apartment. I just started crying. And I just couldn't believe it. A wonderful home. Beautiful. Now I have a home at Eva's, and I work at the kitchen at the Boys and Girls Club. I love my job, yeah.
I've accomplished so much since I've stopped using.
If I didn't have Eva's, I wouldn't have my life that I have now.
I got a permanent residence in Patterson. Ironically, across the street from the bridge I used to live under.
Sometimes it just takes a good meal and a smile to set somebody on a new path.
I have my own place, I have my kids, I'm married. I literally wouldn't have any of that.
I graduated with an associate's. I'm in my senior year at William Patterson University. I've got a 3.85 GPA. I bought a new car.
I'll never forget Josh.
I'll never forget Mark. Changed my life.
I've been with Eva's for 24 years as a client and as a staff member, and I had the opportunity to work with Father on both sides. I worked with Father and talked to Father as a client, and then I also had the opportunity to work with Father as a staff person. I always remember a lot of things that he would say that still go with me today as far as helping these clients. And I'm doing Father's work.